When toxic people are spewing their negativity, sharing drama, criticizing you, or constantly complaining, your body reacts in certain ways. Your eyelids get heavy, and you feel like sinking into bed for a nap. Or, your mind starts to wander as you tire of their nonstop talking or complaining. Oftentimes, your mood can suddenly take a deep plunge into impatience, anxiousness, depression, or even negativity. You may find yourself feeling embarrassed, self-conscious, or you may feel stupid or incompetent. To protect your well-being, it's important to repel these toxic people or, at least, shield you from the negativity they bring. In this video, we'll talk about 5 common types of toxic people that you probably regularly encounter and strategies to shield you from their toxic behavior. Let's first take a look at the type of toxic person called the toxic victim. The victim is someone who feels they have the most problems, the one who is always getting picked on, and the one you and everybody else should feel sorry for. The toxic victim craves sympathy and validation. To get sympathy and validation, they are driven by a compulsion to tell their victim stories. They constantly share their worsening medical conditions. They talk about how they were wronged by a family member. They talk about how their partner is clingy, unhinged, and dramatic. So, if you have decided you've had enough of this type of toxic behavior, be honest with the person. You can explicitly explain that you don't really want to hear their complaints anymore. You can be gentle, subtle, and tactful if you care more about maintaining a long-term relationship. Or, you can turn up the heat and be a little more harsh if you're trying to set a stronger, more clear boundary. In these situations, you need to break an important rule of communication. Stop being a good listener. Be a bad listener. Instead of listening without judgment, listen with judgment. Instead of just sitting back and empathically listening, give them solutions. For example, when a toxic person constantly complains about how their boss is unfair or incompetent, tell them something like, "Have you given any feedback to your boss, or have you began looking for work somewhere else?" Or if someone constantly complains about how crazy his wife is, share with him how amazing your own partner is, or ask if they ever considered marriage counseling. If they complain about their health, ask them if they tried a new doctor or medications. When the toxic victim is looking for sympathy, but you give them solutions instead, they will eventually learn that you are not the person to go to share complaints. The second type of a toxic person is the self-centered talker. We all feel more talkative from time to time, but compulsive talkers seem to dominate the conversations and attention more often than not. These are the people you try to avoid when you see them in public, because you know if they spot you they will talk at you without giving you a chance to speak, or they won't let you go. Again, just because someone talks a lot, it doesn't mean they are toxic. However, when a person consistently makes you feel ignored, bored, or annoyed and there is a steady imbalance of attention during conversations, the relationship can be considered toxic. Self-centered talkers may actually know little about you or what is going on in your life, because they don't ask questions or listen. They are just poor listeners who like to use you to process their own thoughts out loud. It often doesn't matter who they talk to. They will talk at anyone who passes by, but they may also learn that they can seek you out. There are a few things you can do to navigate around self-centered talker. When walking somewhere public like the gym or at work, and you see a self-centered talker, be intent on getting to your destination, walk quickly, and do not break stride. Simply let them know that you've got an appointment, that you have to use the restroom, or just let them know that you cannot talk. If you are already in a conversation with the self-centered talker, interrupt them and give them a deadline by which you have to go. Let them know that you only have a moment to talk, but then you have to go. If they keep talking, offer some nonverbal cues such as looking at your watch, looking at the door, backing up, or start turning your feet away from them. A third type of toxic person is the drama magnet. It's true that life is hard, and we often have a lot of different struggles. Cars break down, we get sick, or we have financial problems, but drama magnets seem to be involved in a pattern of self-fulfilling behaviors that lead to the drama. For example, they complain about being treated poorly at work by a boss or colleagues, but then gossip, criticize, cut corners in their duties, bring up inappropriate topics or unprofessional conversations at work. When they get in trouble for these behaviors, this validates their own victim narrative, giving them more to complain about, and the cycle continues. Another example is a parent who complains about how her grown children are not present, don't help out, and how she feels isolated. When those children are around, she may make passive-aggressive, critical, or judgmental, or guilt-provoking comments to her children. The children then don't want to be around that parent, which further validates the parent's story of being the neglected parent with unkind children. Some other behaviors that drama magnets may engage in may be hanging out with people who break the law, getting into relationships with abusive or narcissistic partners, or staying out later partying when they have to go to work the next day. These kinds of behaviors tend to have negative consequences such as legal issues, abuse or neglecting relationships, or getting in trouble at work the next day for being late or absent. Ultimately, when you encounter a drama magnet, they tend to want sympathy and validation from you for their self-imposed misfortune. So, how do you protect yourself from the toxicity of the drama magnet? The main thing is to not get caught up in the drama or in their histrionics. Listen politely, but realize that you are not their therapist. The drama magnet is often in denial as to how addicted they are to dramatic and unhealthy situations and then getting sympathy for their decisions. If they are not someone you have a long-term close relationship with and you are simply trying to prevent them from coming to you for validation, again, be a bad listener. Do this by giving them solutions, by helping them see the connection between their behavior and the consequences. Eventually, they will learn that they cannot come to you for pity or validation. The fourth type of toxic person we will talk about today is the criticizer. When someone like a close relative is always making remarks about your weight, your hair, your clothes, your parenting, or some other decision, this person is a criticizer. Is there someone in your life that when you're around they make you feel angry, flustered, embarrassed, self-conscious, or just stupid? This is likely the criticizer. For example, let's say you have a family member that you've tried to separate yourself from. You go to visit her after not seeing her for a while, and within minutes of being in the same room with you, she starts criticizing you. What can you do? An effective strategy would be to respond immediately while they are making an offensive or cutting statement. Don't apologize or wait for a better time. Call them out immediately. For example, if you have a relative that makes a negative statement about your weight or some other sensitive topic, calmly but assertively tell them that that was an offensive thing to say, and politely ask that they do not do it again. Don't get sucked into an argument. Set the boundary swiftly and firmly. Finally, the last toxic person type we'll share in this video is the manipulator. Manipulators thrive on controlling people and situations. This can be their intimate partners, peers at school, coworkers, acquaintances, customers, or strangers. They want to control people's behaviors. Coworkers may manipulate their colleagues into doing work activities that they do not want to do, but then take credit when the undesirable assignment is done. Some other common tactics of manipulators are gaslighting, lying, blaming, and then using guilt, making subtle passive-aggressive comments, and exaggerating emotions. Often, the behaviors of manipulators are difficult to change though, since manipulators are addicted to the control and are habituated to the behaviors that allow them to have the control. If you frequently encounter a particular manipulator in your work life or in public, learn to assertively disagree or say no when they try to control you or the situation. Calmly but immediately set boundaries whenever a manipulator tries to control you into doing something you don't want to do. Getting into an argument with them may not help. Simply state your opposing preference and act on it. At work, if you feel like a manipulator is dominating a meeting and not allowing others to contribute to the decision-making, call on those being ignored by the manipulator and encourage them to share their thoughts. Sometimes to protect yourself from a manipulator, you need to empower those around you to do the same thing. It's impossible to avoid toxic people. Instead of being pushed around by toxic people or trying to completely avoid them, learn some skills to confront or repel them. Doing so will help you become more confident with yourself and when interacting with other people, and it will protect you from the negativity toxic people bring. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to Neurofeed Snack.